To the Chinese, he was the barbarian scourge born from the wastes. To the Europeans, he was a demonic servant leading a detestable nation of Satan that poured like devils from Tartarus. To human history, though he was one of the greatest warlords in history, we're talking, of course, about Genghis Khan. Let us now dive in and unravel this fascinating story. Genghis Khan entered the world around 1162 AD under the name Temujin, a tribute to a defeated Tatar chieftain his father had captured in battle. Born into the Borjigan tribe, he carried the legacy of his famed ancestor Kabul Khan, a rare Mongol leader who, 6 decades earlier, had briefly united the fractious tribes against China's powerful Jin dynasty. This heritage of defiance and leadership would shape Temujin's own destiny, setting the stage for his rise as one of history's most legendary conquerors. Destiny seemed to claim Genghis Khan from the moment he was born. Not only did he inherit the legacy of a powerful lineage, but he also bore a physical omen, a blood clot clutched in his tiny fist. To the spiritually attuned Mongols, this was an unmistakable sign. The heavens had chosen him for greatness. Yet his path to power would be forged through hardship. As a boy, Genghis, then called Temujin, endured a brutal education in survival amid the feuding clans of the Mongolian steppes. At just 9 years old, his father, Yesugei, took him to live with the family of his betrothed. But tragedy struck on the return journey when Yesugei accepted an invitation to dine with a rival tribe, unaware that their gesture of peace masked a deadly betrayal. Genghis' father accepted the invitation, sharing a meal with his rivals only to fall victim to a treacherous poisoning. Upon learning of his father's murder, the young Temujin rushed home, expecting to inherit his father's role as clan chief. But the tribe, unwilling to bow to a mere boy of 9, cast out his family, leaving them to scrape by as outcasts on the harsh Mongolian plains. Humiliated and hardened by betrayal, Genghis swore vengeance, vowing never again to be scorned. Years later, when a bitter dispute erupted over a hunting hall, he confronted his half-brother, and with ruthless resolve, ended the rivalry in blood. This brutal act marked his first step toward dominance, proving he would let no one, not even kin, challenge his authority. By 16, the young chieftain had already mastered the brutal laws of the steppe. Power was seized by the sword and kept the same way. His marriage to Berta, the girl betrothed to him years earlier, should have secured an alliance between their tribes, but fate had other plans. Soon after the wedding, raiders from the Merkit tribe abducted Berta, forcing her into marriage with their chieftain. Refusing to accept this humiliation, Genghis rallied his blood brother Jamuka and his powerful mentor Togrul, launching a daring rescue that would become legend. Yet when Berta gave birth to her first son, Yochi, 9 months later, whispers spread across the grasslands. Was the boy truly Genghis's heir? Defying doubters, the Khan claimed Yochi as his own, silencing challenges with a glare that brooked no dissent. This moment revealed a key truth about Genghis. His authority was absolute, and his word once given was law, even when shadows of suspicion lingered. Genghis Khan and Berta would ultimately raise 4 sons together. While the great Khan took many other wives and fathered numerous children throughout his reign, only Berta remained his true companion, and only their male heirs were recognized as legitimate successors to his empire. But before his rise to power came trials that would forge his legendary resolve. At just 20 years old, Genghis was captured by the Taichiuts, a tribe once allied with his family. Enslaved and subjected to brutal treatment, he stubbornly refused to bow to his captors, enduring harsh punishments for his defiance. His indomitable spirit caught the attention of a sympathetic guard, possibly still loyal to Genghis' bloodline, who aided his daring escape. This act of resilience became legendary across the steppes, marking him as a man of destiny. With his newfound reputation, Genghis rallied his brothers and most loyal warriors into a formidable fighting force. He recognized that the Mongols' endless clan warfare kept them weak and divided. Determined to change their fate, he led his small band across the grasslands, methodically uniting rival tribes under his banner through a mix of diplomacy, strategic marriages, and sheer force of will. His vision was clear. Only as one people could the Mongols rise to greatness. Genghis Khan's vision was bold and uncompromising. He would erase the fractures dividing his people, even if it meant crushing resistance through sheer force. Under his leadership, the Mongols would shed their tribal rivalries and emerge as a unified empire, a formidable power capable of challenging even mighty China. What began as a modest band of loyal followers soon grew into an elite army of 20,000 hardened warriors, forged in the crucible of relentless steppe warfare. Each battle-tested soldier became part of Genghis' unstoppable machine, their loyalty bound not by clan ties but by shared conquest and the promise of glory under their visionary leader. Genghis Khan was a master of war, a strategic genius who wielded brutality with chilling precision. His first major test came when he marched against the Tatars, the very tribe that had poisoned his father years earlier. The battle was swift and decisive, but Genghis's retribution was merciless. He issued a grim order. Every Tatar male taller than a wagon wheel's axle, essentially every adult, was to be executed. Only children young enough to be indoctrinated into loyalty were spared. This calculated massacre served dual purposes. It avenged his father's death while eliminating future threats. With the Tatars crushed, Genghis then turned his vengeful gaze toward the Taichi Ut, former allies who had once enslaved him. His campaign of retribution was only beginning, and each act of vengeance further cemented his reputation as both a conqueror and a force of reckoning. With his legendary cavalry, the most feared horsemen the steppes had ever seen, Genghis Khan crushed the Taichi Ut forces with terrifying efficiency. His vengeance was as brutal as it was symbolic. Every captured Taichi Ut chief met a gruesome end, boiled alive in a display of merciless justice. This was more than mere retribution. It was a warning to all who might oppose him. Just years later, Genghis set his sights on the mighty Naiman tribe, the last major obstacle standing between him and total domination of Mongolia. In a masterful campaign, his forces outmaneuvered and overwhelmed the Naimans, securing control of central and eastern Mongolia. For the first time in centuries, one man commanded more territory than any Khan before him. The scattered tribes of the steppe were rapidly becoming a unified force, and Genghis Khan was forging them into an empire with fire and blood. Genghis Khan revolutionized warfare through a lethal combination of strategic genius, psychological terror, and technological innovation. While his battlefield tactics were brutally effective, his true advantage came from an unparalleled intelligence network, a web of spies who infiltrated enemy camps, gathering crucial information while sometimes eliminating key commanders to cripple opposition forces before battles even began. The Khan was also a master of adaptation. absorbing and improving upon every military advancement he encountered. From conquered foes, he acquired superior bow designs that gave his archers unmatched range and precision, along with revolutionary communication systems that allowed his armies to coordinate with unprecedented speed. This blend of espionage, innovation, and overwhelming force made the Mongol war machine unlike anything the world had seen, as much a product of cunning intellect as of raw martial power. Genghis Khan engineered one of history's most sophisticated battlefield communication systems using smoke signals, flaming torches, and booming war drums to coordinate his armies across vast distances. In the chaos of combat, colored flags transmitted instant orders, turning the Mongol horde into a precision instrument of war that could pivot tactics mid-battle with terrifying efficiency. But technology alone didn't forge his invincible warriors. Genghis maintained an elite force where every soldier was a master of mounted warfare. His recruits underwent rigorous testing. They had to demonstrate flawless horsemanship, even riding bareback at full gallop, pinpoint accuracy with composite bows at 300 yards, and deadly skill with swords in close combat. This wasn't just an army. It was a brotherhood of the steppes' most lethal warriors, each hand-picked to meet the Khan's exacting standards. Where other rulers fielded peasant levies, Genghis built a professional killing machine that moved, fought, and thought as one. Genghis Khan revolutionized warfare not just through brute strength, but through meticulous organization. Behind his armies trailed an efficient caravan of ox-drawn supply carts, a mobile logistics network carrying everything from spare weapons to medical supplies. Shamans traveled with the troops, serving as battlefield chaplains who boosted morale and tended to the wounded, while bureaucrats meticulously documented every piece of plunder, turning chaos into calculated gain. After subduing the fractious Mongol tribes, they finally united under his banner in 1206, proclaiming him Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. This wasn't merely a political title. A powerful shaman declared him the earthly embodiment of Monke Koko Tengri, the eternal blue sky, the Mongols' supreme deity. Now wielding both military might and divine mandate, Genghis set his sights beyond the steppes. In 1207, he launched his first foreign campaign against the prosperous Xixia kingdom in northwest China, a civilization that had thrived for over 2 centuries. This marked the beginning of Genghis' transformation from tribal unifier to world conqueror, as the Mongols shifted from internal conflicts to outward expansion under their heaven-ordained leader. 2 years after a swift and total surrender by the kingdom, Genghis Khan redirected his ambitions toward a far greater prize, the Jin dynasty of northern China. What followed was a monumental campaign that would stretch over 20 years, testing the strength and strategy of his rising empire. But Genghis Khan wasn't content with conquest in just one direction. While battling in the east, he looked west and sought peaceful relations with the Khwarezm dynasty, a vast and wealthy Turkish empire that spanned modern-day Turkestan, Persia, and Afghanistan. In 1219, Genghis Khan launched one of the most devastating military campaigns in history, personally leading a force of 200,000 Mongol warriors against the Khwarezm Empire. Fueled by vengeance and a strategic desire to send a powerful message, his army tore through the empire's cities with ruthless efficiency, leveling each one in turn. Those who weren't killed outright often faced a grim fate, forced to march ahead of the Mongol army as human shields during sieges of the next targets. Genghis Khan's retribution was total and indiscriminate. Not only were soldiers and civilians slaughtered, but even children, pets, and livestock were wiped out, as he aimed to obliterate the Khwarezm dynasty so completely that it would be erased from memory and history alike. By 1221, just 2 years after the initial invasion, Genghis Khan had achieved complete victory, capturing and executing the Khwarezmian Sultan and his son, thereby erasing the dynasty from the map. But this conquest was more than just a military triumph. It marked the beginning of a new era. As the Mongol forces pushed into Eastern Europe, they ushered in a period known as the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace. Though remembered for his ruthless tactics in war, Genghis Khan was also a visionary leader and skilled statesman. He understood that lasting power required more than just fear. It needed stability. Under his rule, regions long dominated by violent warlords found law, order, and relative peace. By outlawing blood feuds, a common cause of endless clan warfare, he laid the groundwork for unity, trade, and cooperation across a vast multicultural empire. Genghis Khan's empire wasn't just built on conquest. It was also grounded in principles of fairness and innovation that were far ahead of their time. He granted tax exemptions to religious institutions, a policy that wouldn't become common in the West for many centuries. This reflected the deep-rooted Mongol belief in religious freedom. Faith was seen as a personal matter, and no one, least of all the state, had the right to interfere. This tolerance allowed a vast array of beliefs to coexist peacefully under Mongol rule, from Buddhism and Islam to Christianity and traditional shamanism. Beyond matters of faith, Genghis Khan also revolutionized communication by creating an imperial postal system known as the Yam. Through a network of relay stations and mounted couriers, letters and parcels could travel safely across thousands of miles, from the edges of Europe to the eastern shores of China. It was a logistical marvel of the medieval world, unmatched in speed and efficiency until the modern age. Genghis Khan died in 1227 AD, though the exact cause of his death remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Some accounts suggest fatal injuries sustained in battle, while others point to natural causes. True to Mongol tradition, there was no grand tomb or towering monument for the man who had built the largest land empire the world had ever seen. Instead, his funeral procession followed ancient customs steeped in secrecy. The great Khan's body was taken to an undisclosed location, and anyone who crossed paths with the procession was reportedly killed to protect the site's secrecy. Legends claim that, to ensure eternal peace and concealment, a river was even diverted to flow over his hidden grave. To this day, the final resting place of Genghis Khan remains unknown, a fitting mystery for a leader who reshaped the world and left behind a legacy that still echoes across continents. After Genghis Khan's death, his sons carried forward his legacy with astonishing momentum, pushing the Mongol Empire to even greater heights. Under their leadership, the unstoppable Mongol horde swept across continents, eventually advancing as far west as the gates of Vienna in Austria, striking fear into the heart of medieval Europe. But just as conquest seemed inevitable, fate intervened. The sudden death of Genghis's son, Ogedei Khan, compelled the Mongol generals to return to Mongolia for the selection of a new great Khan. Europe was spared by circumstance, not by strength. Yet history invites a fascinating question. Given the relative religious tolerance, meritocratic governance, and economic stability the Mongol Empire brought to the East, might Europe have actually benefited from Mongol rule rather than merely surviving it? Though the mighty Mongol Empire ultimately proved to be short-lived, it undeniably stands among the greatest empires in world history. The Mongols' impact was profound, shaping cultures, economies, and even the very course of history across vast regions. But imagine for a moment what the world might have looked like if the Mongol Empire had endured as long as the Roman Empire. How would their progressive laws, innovations in trade and communication, and cultural tolerance have transformed societies across Europe, Asia, and beyond? It's a tantalizing thought, one that sparks endless possibilities about how history could have unfolded differently. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great content. See you next time on History Simplified.